Welcome to She Sells Radio. I am so excited for today's episode and to also be rounding out this series that we've been doing on prosperity and on abundance. And oh my gosh, how are we already at the completion of this series? I so want to hear from you. What have your takeaways been? Have you been able to use these lessons or use these principles that we've been talking about to create more abundance in your life, to create more prosperity in your life? And it's so fun to, as I record this, we are in this most gorgeous home in the mountains of North Carolina. If you're listening to the audio, go check out my YouTube and watch the video version because the home is gorgeous. My family is so accommodating. We invited some of my family to come join us. We're here for a birthday trip for me. And I was like, I need to record from the living room because it's like my happy place right now. We've got beautiful fireplace to the left, like these huge vaulted ceilings. The view, if you could see the view that I'm looking at of the mountains outside with the fall trees right now, it is like the most beautiful thing ever. But it's such a reminder just of the prosperity and abundance that exists in the natural world. And that when that is not going on in our lives, there's something that we've kind of kinked the hose with, right? And usually it's a shift in perspective that's really all that's needed to realign with the prosperity that's possible in your life. And so not even possible, meant for you, right? Like if you are here on this planet listening to this, you were meant for that. It is available for you. And so what I wanted to share about today as we wrap this up is this final law, which is the perpetual transmutation of energy. And how is that for a mouthful, right? But it's one of the universal laws. It's one of the most fundamental ones, and it's not just a good one to know in the context of prosperity, although that's what we're going to talk about today. It's also really helpful to know for any circumstances that you desire to shift in your life, that you have the power to do so, and that you have the power to do so now as well. So if you're looking at the bank account and it's either on the downcline, decline, downcline is not a word, decline, or it's been static, it's not where you want it to be, if sales aren't where you want them to be, or just if any area of your life isn't where you want it to be, you have the power to start shifting that now. And so this particular law, I want to read you the definition from modernmanifestation.com. It states that energy is constantly moving, transmuting, or transferring, and is always in motion, hence the word perpetual. This continuous metamorphosis never stops. Everything is always changing and nothing stays constant. So how does this relate to your prosperity, and how can you use this to get to where you want to go? Here's the thing. It takes great discipline to not get super caught up in outward circumstances when they're not where you want them to be. And we have to remember that everything in our outer circumstances, it's old news. It's old news. So whatever the current reality is in terms of your sales for this month, in terms of your bank account, in terms of your health, that's all old news. You have the ability now in this moment, if you make a conscious choice, to transmute that into what you want. And so, it's fun as I record this. We literally just got off a 50K Club mastermind call, which is my higher level mastermind. And the women in that group are collaboratively writing a book together this year that we're going to be publishing and promoting next year. And by the way, that program is open enrollment. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I want to join an incredible high vibe group of women and become a published author and create just the most amazing year of my life, send me a DM. I'm at Elise Archer on all social, and I'm more than happy to connect with you about that. But we just got off the call, and the woman who is facilitating the call, who's going to be publishing this book, was one of our former members. And we were talking about how quickly she was able to shift things in her life when she said yes to her calling and her purpose. And I trust, like, this podcast is not an infomercial for 50K Club. It's just like, it's fresh on my mind because I just got off the call. When she had first joined the program, there was a lot in her life that, like, the publishing company wasn't even a blip on the radar. It wasn't even something she'd allowed herself to dream about. But as she got clear on her purpose, and as she said yes to that higher calling for her life, this crystallized and came into form so quickly. And now she's out, she's got a publishing company, she's working with incredible authors around the world. And talk about transmuting energy, right? And she's been on the show before. Michelle Fishing is her name. You can listen to a solo episode I did with her a while back. But to talk about from going from feeling like stuck and just unclear on purpose to boom, 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 you got the dream. Like, it doesn't have to take long. And that's what's so exciting about this law and about applying this to your own life and knowing that you have within you the power to transform or transmute anything in your life that is no longer aligned, even if it was aligned at one point. You know, I sent a message to one of my mentors recently because I got very clear, like, and this happens when you're on the journey, what was once the ceiling becomes the new floor. And I've kind of been living in this area that was, for so many years, my dream of a ceiling. Like, I could never imagine that life was like this. And then as I've allowed myself to expand more and say yes to more, I now realize that as grateful as I am for everything, there's this whole next level that I'm now ready for and that I'm ready to step into, and to be able to say yes to that, not even next year, but like now, to be able to say yes to that now, and to know that for whatever that next level is for you, of prosperity, of abundance, of flow, of opportunity in your life, you have the power for that now. It wouldn't be a vision, it wouldn't be a desire if you didn't have the ability to create that now. And sometimes it is a matter of alchemizing as well. And it is a matter of saying, what am I meant to take from the pain? What am I meant to take from the challenges and literally alchemize into gold in my life? And that's, I think, where things really kind of expanded in a whole new way for me this year. Was there were, just like for all of us, right? We go on this growth journey and we have these lessons, and we have to experience contrast to be able to get clear on what we do want. And so I just like you, like, I've had that happen this year. And when I finally got the lessons and understood that kind of the core of the lessons for me this year were about really setting healthy boundaries and really viewing myself at a higher level of being worthy of a whole nother level of support, of being capable of leadership at another level, of being no longer willing to settle for just enough. And again, what was once the ceiling becomes the floor. So my new ceiling at a certain point had become just enough, but there was still a part of me that was like, well, I should just put up, like, I should just work with that because it's still really great. But yet it wasn't enough for the full expansion that I desire now in my life. And when I finally just said yes to those lessons and said, well, what would it look like to approach this from a higher level of consciousness and to alchemize the things that felt painful, to really learn from them and create something beautiful in my life in a very short amount of time, there's just been so many blessings that have come in with that. And so wherever you are right now, even if you feel like you're at one of your lowest lows in quite some time, there's the opportunity in that for you to alchemize that into your greatest good. And the way to start doing that is really to ask, like, what's the level of consciousness that I'm being invited to step into to meet this challenge from? And what would that higher level of mind, how would a higher level of mind approach this? And what could the good be in this? What could the blessing be in this? What could the lesson be in this? And then from that place, when you focus on what you do have instead of what you don't, you'll find that what you do have multiplies. And this is a tool that you can use, oh my gosh, especially with money, right? Even if what you desire to be in the account isn't there, whatever you have, thank you so much for this. I'm so grateful for this. What can I do with this, right? It's that type of energy that will very quickly shift circumstances. And the other way to really use this is to just remember that nothing is static. Like nothing in your life is static. Nothing on our planet is static. Even if it feels like it is, if you feel like you've been stuck for some time, you haven't. It's not static. It's just that you're not consciously creating. So I want you to really check in with, am I consciously creating what I want? Or am I merely reacting to what's around me, right? Have I kind of bought into the facade, into the illusion of these outer circumstances and forgotten that I create my reality around me? And Joe Dispenza has this little example he gives of someone comes up to him at a seminar and is like, well, I didn't consciously create that car accident. I didn't create that car accident. What are you saying? I create my life. And he's like, oh, yes, you did, because you weren't consciously creating something else. So if you're not consciously creating something else, you're going to kind of just get bumped into by the randomness of the universe and by things that are moving and shifting. And so this is why we want to be very conscious of, because nothing is static, because things are always moving into and out of form, because things are always shifting. My experience has been, if we're not consciously shifting into a higher level in our lives, consciously saying yes to more, consciously saying yes to a higher level of consciousness. It's a lot of the word conscious. If you wanted to, you could play a drinking game in today's episode, by the way, just throwing that one out there. But if you're not doing that, you're going to get bumped into, and it's usually not going to be with what you want. So because it's not stagnant, because your life is not stagnant, because it's always moving, it's either going to be on the incline or the decline, and you get to decide what that is by what you focus on and by what you decide you're going to bring into form in your life. But I think the bottom line with this is there's a couple bottom lines. Number one, know that you can change circumstances and you can change them quickly. I don't care where you are right now. Start focusing on, what do you want to move into form in your life? And the way that you move things into form is you know that when you have a vision for something, it's already a reality at one level. So it's already a reality in your mind. That's one way in which things exist. When you're moving it into form, you're kind of, my friend Allison talks about like pulling it into the physical by becoming more in alignment with it. So that clear intention, thinking from the goal already being done, feeling the emotion of it already being done, and then taking the aligned action. That's how we move it, how we shift the form from the idea realm into the physical realm. So you're just changing the form. It doesn't have to be some complicated thing. It's kind of like how water exists in all these different forms, whether it's a vapor, whether it's rain, whether it's hail, and it just depends on the conditions around it. That's all you're doing. So when we think about it that way, and we know that things are always moving and it doesn't have to take a long time, you get a little more intentional about what you're thinking about how you're acting, and about looking outside less and looking inside more for what you want. And the other takeaway that I would have from this for you, that I would offer for you from this, is knowing that you already have what you need to transmute the circumstance. You already have what you need. If you have a desire for a certain number of clients this year, you have what you need for that. And it can be as little as, well, I just gotta, like, I get to be in alignment with it. I get to start thinking thoughts in alignment with it. I get to start feeling feelings in alignment with it. And even beyond that, you have the contacts and resources and ideas that are necessary to really bring that into form. the key is just to accept it. The key is to say yes. The key is to say, I don't care how long it's felt like things aren't jiving in my life, or how long I felt stuck, or how long I felt like I'm on a decline. I'm ready to say yes to the incline. I'm ready to say yes to what's next. I'm ready to say no more to putting up with just good enough or not enough or downright miserable. And I'm ready to say yes to what I really want, to my good. And so when we say yes, when we make that decision with that firmness of intention, it's like the subconscious gets a command of, oh, she's serious. Like, this is really happening. And things will start to shift into form very quickly. And there's two steps. There's two ways that you know that you're really transmuting that energy. One is you start to feel better. So your emotions will start to raise. Even if nothing has changed around you, you'll start to be more consistently in a state that's one of, it doesn't have to be like bliss or elation. Like, maybe you're just going from having felt kind of anxious for a while to feeling a little calm, or feeling at ease, or feeling hopeful. You're shifting. That's beautiful. So that's how you know. And then from there, your outer circumstances will start to shift as well. But there will be aligned action that you've got to take along the way, because that's part of how we move things from the non-physical into the physical world. So with that, this is your final law. And you know what's really fun about this? So I want you to, if you're listening in real time, tune into the podcast tomorrow, because I'm about to take you on a roughly 60-day adventure. It's going to be from tomorrow until the end of the year, to help you create your best and highest good for the rest of this year. I'm going to be announcing more on the podcast tomorrow. There's a really fun challenge we're going to be doing for you. There's prizes along the way. And I want you to really, this is an invitation for you to really open up to wherever I am right now, wherever I'm listening to this, whether I've just had my best year ever and I can't imagine that it would possibly get better. Give me 60 days with you, and let's see how much better it can get. Let's see how much of the goals that you thought were 2023 goals you can actually accomplish this year by the end of the year. And if it's been one of your more challenging years, and maybe there's been a lot of personal challenges and you're kind of feeling depleted and you're like, I'm just kind of ready for this to be done. Or maybe business-wise, it hasn't gone the way that you wanted it to go. I want you to give me 60 days with you over the course of this challenge to help you alchemize everything that has felt like pain, everything that has felt like disappointment, and everything that has felt like things were going wrong, so that you can look back on what you did this year and say, that was one of my best years ever. Maybe I didn't think it was going to be. Maybe I just really wanted it to be done. But as I look back, I realize what an alchemist I became in that process, and what I was able to create through that shift in perspective at the end of the year. So stay tuned, because we're going to be sharing more details on the show tomorrow. I'm so excited. I hope you've enjoyed this series on prosperity and abundance. To me, it's like, when we can figure this part out, the tactical sales, revenue, business strategy, like, yes, that matters. Yes, it's helpful, but not unless it's on a foundation of this, not unless it's on a foundation of true knowing of how prosperity works, how abundance works, and how to become a match for that in your life. So again, I'm at Elise Archer on all socials. Send me a DM, or I'd be, super honored if you share this and tag me and say, like, what did you learn from this series? What are you implementing? What have some of your wins been? That makes me so happy to hear, because I want this to make an impact in your life. So thank you so much, as always, for being a member of our community, and stay tuned for tomorrow's episode for some very exciting announcements about how you can create the very best rest